Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. To this morning, right here on Patty's Place, we are welcoming Brenda Prater Sellers. She is an entrepreneur, philanthropist of the year, businesswoman, and she's also an author of a book called You Slept Where? Calamities of a Clumsy Businesswoman, and you've raised over $50,000 for Alzheimer's, Tennessee Haven House of Blount County, and other local nonprofits. So welcome to Patty's Place, Brenda.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm very excited to talk with you about it. I thought we'd start with, as you said, there's over 76.4 million baby boomers today, and about 71% of the baby boomers have at least one living parent that are 75% receiving care from family members. So in your experience, how do you deal with it all?
Well, it's hard. It's probably one of the hardest things that I've had to do in my life. My mother had dementia for about 10 years, and I've done a lot of things. I've climbed Mount Everest. I jump out of airplanes. I'm an extreme sports enthusiast. I've done a lot of things, but to have to deal with the emotional stress of dealing with a patient, and especially a mother that has dementia, was probably the toughest thing I've ever done. And I said, and part of that is also in my book, it's like my sweet, timid Christian mother ended up with this disease. She just turned mean.
Yeah.
Because that's just part of the disease. And so what we did, and we just tried to find out. I was the middle child. I had an older brother, younger brother, and different siblings deal with, different things differently. And I would just try to laugh at Mama, and my brothers would try to correct her, and then that would just make her, that just make her mad. So we just started to think of whatever it took to keep Mama happy. And I came up with like 5 things in the book to make Mama happy. And one of the things that really helped her was just get in the car and drive around. And that was a piece for her, and I think it was the changing of the scenery, but that was one way that it kept her happy. We're going anywhere and nowhere. And then eating ice cream, she loved ice cream. So that was, if all else fails, we'd say, okay, Mama, what about some ice cream? And that would calm her. And then how I ended up finishing that book was that I was writing stories. Mama was an avid reader, so I was writing stories, and I would read those stories to her about what was going in the book, and she loved that. So that kept her occupied and entertained. And then TV, she liked a lot of those old TV shows. So that and then the fifth thing was I got a lot of her family and friends to send her cards in the envelope because they were like sunshine in the mail. She loved to go to the mailbox. She loved to open, and she'd even open the bill. It didn't matter, just opening something and looking at the card. So that's kind of how we kept Mama happy, or we tried. We did the best we could to try to keep Mama happy.
And I agree with you. I had similar experiences with my mom because she had dementia too. And I got to the point where, whatever could calm her down, make her happy, that's what I did, I think it's hard for people to deal with that. It's okay to, I want to say, lie to them, but you're not really.
Right.
You're entering their world, and it's like, so what if they say the sky is green? You just go, okay.
Right. It's great, yes.
Yeah.
Well, and it was, because it was funny. My brothers were, and I think early on in the when we realized something wasn't right, Mama was real shy and quiet, and she had a sudden outburst, which is totally uncharacteristic to her. So I knew something was wrong. And then I think the brothers just tried to correct her. They thought they were doing, no, the sky is green. The sky is blue, not green. But that just made her that much, that just agitated her that much more. And then I talk about this in the book. I had a big meeting. Of course, you've got your own family. You got your kids, you got your work. And we were staying with her at night until she went into assisted living. I had this big meeting the next day, and please, God, please let Mama sleep. Well, she wakes up in the middle of the night and she comes over to me and she goes, well, now, do your parents know where you are? And I said, well, Mama, you are my parents. She goes, I know that now. Now, you be quiet and don't be waking me up anymore, So, and then they want to go back to their home. And I said, well, Mama, you are home. This is your home. No, my other home. So she kept wanting to go to her childhood home. I could not satisfy her. I said, no, this is your home. No, my home on Davis Ford. So it's 12 o'clock at night. It's cold. I said, okay, let's go to your home. And we just got in the car. She's in her house coat. I'm in my pajamas. We ride around the loop, and then we get back home. Well, here we are at Davis Ford Road. And she got out, and she went in and went back right to bed. We went right to sleep. But, yeah, just whatever you have to do. But for anybody going through that, if you don't take care of your mental health, I would find myself just it was so emotional, especially when it was such a characteristic change from my mother. I was emotionally drained after staying with her because you're repeating yourself over and over and over, trying to keep her calm. It was just a very stressful time. I just tried to laugh. That's the only way I could deal with it. I just laughed, and then if I'd laugh, she would see me laugh, and then she'd laugh. So it was I just tried to keep her happy. That's, because if Mama's not happy, there's nobody happy.
That's true. And like I said, I kind of adopted that mentality too. And I also found, thinking back now, I found those moments when I did that with her to be present in that moment. I'm glad I did, because I was able to share those things, like enter her world, when she wasn't up. We didn't upset her. Yeah, because my mom was more on the reserve side too. But boy, she could come out with some outbursts, and even family members would be like, "Your mom did not just say that." I'm like, "Yeah, she did." That's the dementia. And I know a lot of people struggle, with that. But I agree, it is very emotionally draining with it. How did you juggle all that? Because you climbed Mount Everest and all kinds of stuff while dealing with this.
Yes, well, I needed a distraction, and I studied time management, and like I said, I ran several businesses, but then I had a big to-do list of different things I wanted to do, and I'm a photographer by trade. That's what that's what the part of the story is about too. And if I did not schedule these things to give me something to look forward to, I think I would have gone crazy too. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful. It was just that everybody's brain needs to have a rest. And I just found myself, if I had something to look forward to, I had something booked, I could get through the week, and I could do all these things. But it gave me a peace of mind. And then I had all these goals. I did a lot of community service things. So I just tried to prioritize, and I tried, because I knew Mama wouldn't be here. And then later on, Mama didn't know if it was me or if it was a caregiver later on. But I knew it was Mama. I knew it was her. So I just tried to do the best I could. We finally ended up putting her into assisted living because where they live, it was real far out in the country, and during the wintertime, it was just hard to get sitters because all three of my two brothers and I, we all worked, had jobs, had businesses, and so it's just hard to find somebody that could, especially during the wintertime, it gets snowed in, and that was a whole other thing. So she was going to a daycare center for that type of patients during the day, but then at night we would try to bring her home, but then that got confusing too. So finally, the saving grace is that Mama found a friend at her assisted living. She really thought that friend was one that she grew up with. So Mama had a friend. So because Mama didn't want to be alone. That was her biggest thing. She was afraid to be alone. And my brother ended up growing a beard. Well, that kind of scared her because she kind of like, what's that bearded man doing here?
Exactly.
She couldn't understand, well, what's he doing here? And she kind of didn't recognize him with the beard. But as time goes on, you just do the best you can. And God love everybody that has to see their parents or sibling or spouse go through that. And see, now my husband has a little bit of dementia, and so now it's deja vu. But now I feel like, well, I know what to expect, and now that I'm kind of going through it again, you just look at the bright side. That's all you can do, and be positive. That was the other thing. I just tried to be more positive, and I practiced PMA, positive mental attitude. Because if you're not positive, you're going to be negative, and negative is bitter. And so bitter doesn't help anything. So I just tried to be positive, and then tried to appreciate every day that I did have with Mama.
Yeah, I mean it could be a struggle to be positive. But I kind of thought about that too. Like I just tried to appreciate the time I had with my mom, even though most of the time she didn't know I was her daughter, but she thought I was this really nice girl that came to visit her,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, she'd ask me about my mom and I'd tell her about herself,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we always tell caregivers it's important that they take care of themselves. What kind of tips can you give them so that they realize, because there's always that guilt, like you should take care of yourself, but then you feel guilty that you're not. Like what can you do to help?
Well, to me it was all about scheduling between my brothers and I and my cousins that lived there locally and close to Mama. We all had shifts, and it basically was like a job, and that was our job to take care of Mama when it was our time, and we tried to conquer and divide. But I just found out if I did not take care of myself, and then you feel guilty. And I was traveling for work too, so that was a challenge too, to try to make sure my shift's covered, make sure somebody's there with me, because she could not be alone by herself. Somebody had to be there 24/7. So, and even in my book, I talked about I maybe didn't do as good as I could have done, and you always got that in the back of your mind. But then I come back and say, you know what? I did the best I could, and that's all you can do instead of just beating yourself up. Because then, if you are there 24/7, then you're physically not able or mentally able to deal with it. So that's why I always would try to schedule something a good way, or even just going to a park, going to we live here in the foothills of the mountains, just driving to the park, or just peace and quiet. If you could just have peace and quiet and take care of yourself, and then just, I think all of us feel guilty somehow, because I think whatever we do in our minds, it's not good enough, because it's our mama, it's our daddy, it's whoever. And I feel like we just have to be at peace with what we did, because now I can't change it. Even if I thought, that I should have done this, done that, I can't change it. There's nothing I can do. So I tried not to stress out, because I said, stress is like being in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do. You can sit there and rock all day, but it doesn't get you anywhere. So I tried to take that philosophy with my mom. It's like, I cannot stress about it. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to be present. I'm going to bring her as much joy as I can. And Mama loves flowers, and I always would try to take flowers for her. So anything to take Mama and make Mama happy is what I tried to do. But I do feel like I probably should have done more, but there's nothing I can do about it now.
Exactly. I think we all feel that way. So how did you deal with all this while you were also finishing your book at the same time? That's a lot. And you were working.
Yeah, but it was a distraction. Writing that book, and then, 97.3% people that say they're going to write a book, they never do, because it's too hard. Well, now I understand, too. That book took me 10 years, and it wasn't until my mother passed away that I ended up finishing that book, because I had a reason, because it was her legacy. I wasn't going to tell her story, but it ended up being her story. It was kind of my struggles of trying to do life-work balance. How do you have your kids, your family, your businesses, and then trying to take care of your parents? It was just a lot, and I just tried to do, like I said, the best I could do. And schedule, like I said, it was all about the scheduling too. And then, like I said, I was reading to her, and that's how I ended up reading and writing. And even when I was staying with her, I was always working or writing on that story, which is about her. And so she enjoyed listening about her. But the story was about her.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, they do like the stories. And I always say I'm glad I paid attention to my mom growing up when she would tell all her stories about the family, because I was able to jump in and talk to her, being in that moment with her.
Exactly.
So you talk a lot about scheduling. So what kind of tips would you be to give somebody that they're trying to schedule? Should they start with like 10 minutes, a half hour, just to slowly get themselves so they find a little time while they're trying to balance everything.
Yeah, and I think too. Just sometimes I think if I didn't balance, I'm a bathtub person, and whether you did a bathtub or a shower, it's just that piece of your time in there is trying to schedule that, and that was kind of my sanctuary slash my spa. And also, I would schedule a massage, especially after staying down there with my mama overnight. So I always had a massage scheduled, something again to look forward to. And then as far as time with my family, if we didn't schedule that, then my whole time would just be taking care of mama. So I think if I did not schedule time and mark it on the calendar, um, and try to have a movie night or try to have a family night or something, just to make sure you're taking care of your family. Or if there's little kids that's got ball games, I would always try to do the ball games and then try to schedule around that. And then made it even harder when I had to be out of town for a trade show or a business meeting. I had to schedule around that. So there again, I just did the best I could with the time that I had, but being aware of my time, because otherwise, and so many people maybe care for their parents, but then they're bitter because they feel like they've got to take care of their parents.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like they don't do anything for themselves. And I'm like, well, if you don't take time for yourself, nobody's going to schedule time for yourself unless it's you scheduling time for yourself, because you're busy doing everything else. And at that time, too, Mama loved, as far as housework and stuff, too, I was like, you either try to get somebody to do it, and I always looked at my weaknesses. I always tried to focus on the things I was good at. I was good at entertaining Mom. I was good at driving Mom around, trying to keep her happy. But other things that I wasn't maybe as good as keeping the house clean as I should have been, and tried to get help with, with that. So there again, I just tried to do the best I could. But dementia patients love, and especially women, this was also on my list too, is that they love to fold towels. And so I would go in there and say, oh, Mama, look, here's these towels. Help me fold it. And she'd sit there and fold them. And then I would take them back in the back, mess them all up, take them back, and, oh, look here, I found more towels. And Mama loved kittens. And we had this little, I think it's Animal Planet, Planet World, something.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was a whole DVD of kittens, and she watched that almost all the time. I mean, and she'd say, I think I may have seen this before, but she loved those little kittens, and she'd recognize a kitten that looked like hers, but she would sit there, and that would keep her calm, and that would keep her busy, and she was doing something. I'd be like, oh, Mama, look, good job. Thank you for helping me. And it was almost like, as mothers, she wanted to help, and that's what she did. So that was another tip on how to keep her occupied. But back to your question about scheduling time, is that if you don't do slot that time for yourself, your day is going to be gone before you know it. But you only have 24 hours in a day, and that 24 hours, like in our case, we had our shift that we divided up, and then you had to eat, sleep, and then work, and then by the time you did all that, and especially I worked a lot of hours too, so it was hard trying to put those pieces of and the puzzle together in your time, and you just had to make sure and kind of adhere to that time schedule.
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to say my mom was similar in that if you told her to do something, or if they asked her like, oh, do you want to go do this? She usually would say no. But if you went in and said, oh, Pat, I need your help. Will you help me with this? She'd go and do what you wanted her to do. And
Yes, exactly.
I think a lot of people don't think about approaching dementia patients that way, like asking for help. A lot of times they'll do it because they think they're helping.
Yes, exactly. And Mama would do that too. She would love that. And when we'd say, help me fold these clothes, and she could even take dishes out of the dishwasher, and that was a simple thing. She could put the spoons with the spoons, forks with the forks, plates with the plates, and that in itself, she was good at doing that because she knew to put the plates with the plates, and that was just a simple little task, but that was something that she was helping.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times, we approach the dementia patients, well, you need to do this, you need to do this. And
Yes.
then they get defensive, they get agitated, or they don't understand, and as simple as like turning it around and asking them, hey, can you help me with this? And then they feel really good. And then they do what you wanted them to
Yes.
do,
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You talk about, laughter instead of crying. How do you try to find the laughter in every situation? Because I agree with you. I don't think we laugh as much, and laughter really is the best medicine. It does make you feel better.
Yes, it does. Well, I just ended up laughing because it was better than crying. Because otherwise, I felt like you're so sad that this happened to you, and then I think if you focus on, oh, this is terrible, I can't believe this is happening to my mama. And so what I was doing is anytime my mother, my sweet, timid Christian mother, love to say bad words. And when I say bad words, I mean bad words that she didn't even know what these words were. We don't even know where she heard these words. And so what I would do, I would write them down. And I talk about in my book that, Mama always wrote down our first words. She had 3 kids, all of our words. So here I am, full circle now. I'm writing down words she says, and I'm shocked that she said these words. And my brothers would just be like, they would just blush and be so embarrassed and whatever. Well, I would just laugh. And my dad passed away before my mom. And then once my dad passed away, he lived to be 90, but once he passed away, then that's why the 3 siblings ended up being the 24-hour caregivers, because Daddy could kind of, could be there with her as long as he was alive. But once he passed away, then that rolled over to the 3 kids, and so we just end up laughing. And my daddy had a weird, warped kind of sense of dry humor, and he would not believe that. I mean, because I talk about him in my book that I said, but I said, oh, kiss my butt, and Mama heard me. Well, of course, I got in trouble. I said, but then Mama started a lot worse. We're like, oh my gosh, she's saying a lot worse, and knowing she didn't really know what she was saying. And so I just had to laugh about that, because I'm like, here, she got on to me for saying the word but, and now she says a lot worse words than that. And I just had to laugh. I just had to see the humor in that. And then we took her to the doctor one time, and then we're like, oh my goodness, she was flashing the doctor. As soon as the doctor turned around for her, she would flash it, and then she would giggle like a little child, like a little girl. And oh my goodness, I thought I was going to die laughing. And I just had to, and thank goodness it wasn't my brothers in that room, or they would have had a heart attack in that room with Mama if she'd have done that.
Well,
I just laughed. I just had to laugh.
I mean, sometimes you do, because sometimes the things that the dementia patients do or say, it's like you have to, because it is funny. It's so out of character. Yeah. You have to. Otherwise, like you said, you're going to cry with it. So I see here your book raised over $50,000 for nonprofit agencies. How did that come about?
Oh, okay. Well, for the Tennessee Alzheimer's, we did a fundraiser, and it was an event down at Marblegate, which was really close to where I grew up across the lake. And this was, it was Evening with the Author, and it was a ticket event. I gave away the books. I signed all the books. And every book is signed with a purple Sharpie. Do you know why purple Sharpie? Purple is the Alzheimer's color, and Sharpies are made here locally in Blount County, Tennessee. So a lot of people didn't know that. So that one event raised $31,000. And then before, and you'll not believe this, but this shows you the power of social media. Before that book was even printed, our art department did a cover, just a cover of the book. And the Haven House, which is here in Blount County, they did a silent auction for 8 books and 8 barbecue dinners. And that sold for $5,400 for 8 people, 8 books. And they sold it twice for $10,800. So, and the book wasn't even finished yet. So it was a silent auction, and that's where people just bid online. So it ended up that was that, and then I ended up selling little T-shirts because Mama just said be nice. It was kind of funny because even though Mama said be nice, Mama got to be not so nice later on. But I sewed those little T-shirts, and then that all went back to the Tennessee Alzheimer's. So that's, and I'm still trying. My goal is to try to get to $100,000. I'm about halfway there now, but I've been donating lots of books, and I've been donating a lot of fundraisers to try to raise additional money for that. But still, 50,000. That was a lot, I think, for me starting out. And that's my first book. That's the first book I've written.
Well, that is impressive. So, your book is "You Slept Where: Calamities of a Clumsy Businesswoman." Where can people get this book?
Yeah, they can order it on Amazon, or they can go to my website. It's www.Brenda, and it's Prater, Prater, Sellers, SELLERS.com. And that I could do an autographed one on that website. But if they just want to order it on Amazon, it's on Amazon. And if they're not a reader, it's on Audible. And my cousin from Nashville reads the book, Amanda Prater Stribling, and she's also reading Dolly Parton's book. So she's an award-winning narrator that's read over 750 books, and she does a phenomenal job because she's Southern and she's an actress, and so she does a really good job, a lot better than I could have done. So.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Patty's Place. And again, I hope everybody checks out your book as well. And if they have any questions, they can also send us an email off on my website, the Patty's Place for the podcast for that. So I really enjoyed talking with you today, Brenda. I think you gave people some really good tips on how to get through this difficult situation. So.
Oh, I know. So now, did you say your mother has passed away?
Yeah, she passed away about 1.5 years ago.
Oh, okay. So it's still hard, I know, but
yeah.
I appreciate you having me, and thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. So hopefully we help some people who are in the middle of it all to help find some laughter through this, right?
I hope so.
All right. Well, I hope everybody joins us again right here on another episode of Patty's Place.